I need your help. Uncle Sam needs you. For the past 3 years, I've been trying to make the perfect quilt. Countless hours, innumerable dollars, and inconceivable amounts of effort have been poured into this thing, this concept of a perfect quilt. Every cut, seam, and teardrop I've experienced has brought me closer to the perfect quilt. I've just received word that the perfect quilt is a myth, a legend, purely a figment of my overactive imagination, a product of my still developing cranium, the naivety of my youth. Does the perfect quilt exist? No. Can the perfect quilt exist? Yes. Should the perfect quilt exist? Why did I need to make the perfect quilt? In all honesty, this is the second draft of this script. In the first one, I took a bit of a more philosophical approach, and I do mean I have it with me. I could read it off to you, but I'm not going to because I didn't like it enough. In the end, it felt a little lifeless. I was trying for a precisely worded and well-founded logical explanation for a somewhat subjective question. I can answer the second question I posed. I wanted to make a perfect quilt for the same reasons I wanted to make the script perfect. I am a perfectionist. If there are no mistakes in the quilt or the script, I did it perfectly. If I don't make mistakes when I'm quilting, when I'm writing in general, then am I truly the flawed human being I was raised to believe? It may seem like a little bit of a jump in reasoning, but I've had a lot of time to ponder and think over the past few years. Simply worded, if everything I do is perfect, then I'm not bad. And if I'm not bad, that's kind of like being good. What I realized in that initial script is that I believe there can be two types of perfection in a quilt. There's technical perfection and there's sentimental perfection. Technical perfection being every cut is precise, every choice complements the other, and it can be critiqued without criticism. Objective perfection. Sentimental perfection would be personal preference. Subjective perfection. I have never and will never make a technically perfect quilt. It cannot be done by me. However, every single quilt I've ever made is sentimentally perfect. Sentimental perfection is something you won't find in a pattern. You can't find it online. I look at a quilt that I made 3 years ago at this time, and I see a younger me. I see someone who's scared, someone who's very stressed, I see someone who's trying to figure out how to get the hell out of high school. And if you remember what we were doing 3 years ago around this time, it was pretty scary. When I see my first quilt, I see the start of something beautiful and unique. And I see someone who is learning and is still learning and is committing to a lifelong craft. 2 years ago, I was making a quilt and navigating another rough time. My grandmother had passed away and I was learning a lot of skills at work. It was a new job for me. I was in the adult world. It was scary, okay? Do you remember being 19? I was frustrated by the pattern and the blocks weren't the right size. I was learning a lot. Let's just leave it at that. That quilt was the Strawberry Fields Homespun, and it has been on my bed ever since I finished it, so for almost 2 years now. I think it's probably one of my favorite quilts I've ever made, and I can't quite describe why, but I see it every time I go to bed, and I just love it so much. I look at a project from a year ago, and I don't remember doing it. I have photos, I have a few memories, obviously, but if I didn't do it for YouTube, I'm not sure I would remember much beyond this was a quilt I made. It was a very stressful time on 2 accounts. First, my family, and second, work. And that's really all I see when I look at that quilt. That I was just kind of autopiloting it. When I look back on the quilt that I'm currently working on, I know what I'll remember. Every quilt is a big ball of memories. If every picture is worth 1,000 words, then these quilts we love are worth beyond what I could put into words. There's beauty in every quilt. I'm working on accepting the fact that beauty can exist regardless of perfection. Thank you.